everybody. Welcome to a question-filled episode of Small Town Failing Podcast. Joined the first episode of 2024, returning guest Sarah Dudek, who was on. Oh, I said it right. Did I say it right?
It's Dudek, like you built a
Dudek.
deck, but that's okay. Either
Dudek.
way is okay with me. Yeah.
I feel like I've had this conversation 100 times. We're like, it's not okay. It's not okay at all.
It doesn't matter. I'm
It's
not
your
offended.
name. Dudek, who you were on the Baker's Son episode, which I don't remember the movie much, but I remember the conversation. Where, so you, indestructiblefood.com, Indestructible Food on Instagram. We discussed it the last time you were on, but
yes,
if I'm going to butcher it, a lot of illustrations based on food that is somewhat indestructible, but
yeah, shelf stable, let's say. Yeah.
If the bombs drop and 300 years from now the aliens come, it'll be cockroaches and Necco wafers, right? Like that's
agreed.
That's kind of the idea.
Yes. Yeah, it's a food history project that's sort of all about pantry staples.
I love it. And so you do a lot on Instagram too, like reviews of sort of food.
Yeah.
Was the most recent one I saw was not corn muffins, but it was a Jiffy. Was it a Jiffy product or am I making that up?
So somebody had come I did a pop-up and someone had come and they had brought me a recipe and they said, if you mix Jiffy corn muffin mix with yellow cake mix, it makes this beautiful creation and it goes so well with chili. And I was like, it's half cake. I don't know if it goes that well with chili, but I made it and it did indeed go well with chili and everything else. I made a frosting for it. Was perfect in every way.
So there's it's not like Chili's, it's not On the Border, it's one of those Chevys maybe. I remember they had like a corn cake that used to come with all their things, and it was sort of a cornbread-esque item, but it was a lot sweeter. Yeah. I wonder if this was their secret.
In that realm, yeah, you would assume, but I figured it was like double indestructible because it used 2 box mixes.
Yeah, because it had to be invented in the South, right? Because like you can't just have Jiffy corn mix, which is not healthy to begin with, I'm sure, and then we got to mix like yellow cake mix with that, just to
for sure.
Yeah, this wasn't sweet enough.
It's spectacular though. The mouthfeel, it's like velvet. I mean.
So we're coming off the holidays. Are you a Christmaser, a Hanukkah-er, or a nothinger, or
I'm into all of it. Like historically, my family
the war on Christmas.
Yeah, I was like, if you say Happy Holiday, no, no, but like my family has like Roman Catholic roots. But my parents were hippies, so they were non-practicing.
Oh, nice.
So it's just like whatever is out there in the holiday season, I love it all. Like I'm for it, and I will keep my Christmas tree. I have a fake little tree up.
Yep.
I will keep that up till May. Frankly, like till the daylight returns, I'm going for it.
That's right, because I am December 26th. I want everything out of here, and
my wife didn't decorate till the 24th. So there you go.
Are you? So there is this whole, and Erica Chiswick, who was on a couple episodes ago, they put up their Christmas tree on like Christmas Eve, like it comes at night, and then I have some friends in the neighborhood. Their tree is actually brought by Santa. Like for the kids,
amazing.
Which I think is how Erica does it too. Like, I can't imagine, like, we went through Christmas with our kids, so it's a lot of like wrapping and doing everything, which we say we're going to do before Christmas Eve, but we don't.
Right.
I can't imagine then on top of that, trying to lug a tree in here and set everything up.
Right. Where I had a bonkers retail season and literally Paul went out to walk Scallop and he came back and the tree was up. I was like, ta-da. Like we're doing this. Like I just like brought it from the basement. I was like, it's done. Okay.
That my wife loves that. And I think it's like my ADHD kicks in, but probably this Saturday I'll be up at like 4 a.m. and just everything will be gone by the time she wakes up. And it's great. I think she abuses it to like some extent. Like,
sure.
Oh, I'll help you this weekend.
Right. Kick it down the road until you take care of it. It's very wise. Truly.
Yeah. She knows what she's doing. What was I going to say? Oh, so for the holidays, what is sort of the indestructible food, or like what's kind of your go-to, or is it, the normal staples?
I have been we eat pierogi for holidays. We're
Mm.
both Polish. So that's not indestructible, but it's delicious. But I've been leaning hard into stuffing. Like
Oh.
it could be stovetop, but I bought like Pepperidge Farm bag stuffing. And
Mhm.
I have 2 bags in the pantry, and I'm like, "We are eating stuffing once a week till spring." Like, it's
Oh,
so good. Why don't we always eat it? Like, I don't get it at all. It takes 1 minute. You put broth in it, like,
excuse me.
no no trouble. I know, you're very
I'm
enthusiastic.
excited because Leslie and I have had similar conversations. Like when I was a kid, stovetop stuffing was like a staple, like with pork chops or anything else, and we never
Yeah.
have it. And then sometime in 2023, we're like, why don't we reintroduce stovetop stuffing into the mix here? Because
You
it's
could have it
delicious.
anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for the holidays, usually like Christmas and Thanksgiving, I make my own because I get very
You
excited about
sure?
it.
Oh, of
But
course, yeah.
on like a weeknight, like just get the stovetop out.
For real. Do you have any, holiday meal traditions that are very important to you?
For Christmas, not so much. Like, we don't Thanksgiving is kind of I'm very particular where it's like,
Yeah.
turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, like
Sure.
there's certain things you have to have in there. Christmas is just kind of a free for all. Like,
Uh-huh.
we did a roast this year, but in the
Okay.
past we've done turkey. We kind of just do whatever.
Right.
A lot of alcohol. There's a lot of alcohol
Yeah,
involved.
that makes sense.
My wife's Puerto Rican, she makes coquito, which is like the
Oh,
Puerto Rican version of eggnog and much
I love
better.
it.
Like, um, it's a lot of like coconut milk and rum, and yeah,
Ideal,
it's a
truly.
whole thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I saw, like, a great meme this year that was like, "Who cares that eggnog is 10,000 calories a
Right?
sip? You have it once a year, like, just go." And I was like, "It is absolutely true." Like, there's some stuff that, like, should not even have a count on it. Like,
Yeah.
it's no one drinks eggnog all year long.
No. Although I will say there was one time we were in Pennsylvania in like Lancaster
Oh,
where
yeah.
Turkey Hill ice cream.
Uh-huh.
I feel like in Turkey Hill, they're like convenience stores. You can get eggnog year round.
I
Like
believe that.
if
I believe that.
July, you just want to be like jogging down the street with a little
Uh-huh.
pint of eggnog. Like
Why not?
Pennsylvania seems like the kind of place where that sort of thing should happen.
Lancaster is like a hardworking county, though. I feel like a lot of farms there, a lot of people got
Yeah,
their hustle on, like, yeah.
we need our eggnog to like replenish after working in the
Yes,
fields all day.
I agree.
When I was a kid, we like back to school shopping. I grew up in upstate New York, and my parents refused to pay sales tax on clothes. So
Ooh,
every year back to school shopping was done in Lancaster, like at the outlets and that whole thing.
amazing, yeah.
Spent a lot of time there. And Hershey Park was like the
Yeah,
reward at the end. Now,
see? Another food-based reward, it's
it
ideal.
all circles around. Have you ever been, by the way, to Hershey Park?
I
It's
never have. It's an embarrassment. I can't believe I'm admitting it in front of people, but yeah, I haven't
I,
been yet.
I don't know if you're a big like amusement park person or something, but like they have a ride there that you don't even have to pay. They have Chocolate World, which is just like
Ooh,
pretty much a giant gift shop for Hershey, but you can
right,
get like
right.
everything there. But then there is like a factory tour ride that you can take, and at the end they'll
Uh-huh.
give you a candy sample. So you can just
Oh, I
take that
love
all
it.
day and just get like one after
Y
another. It's
Perfect.
yeah. There was one when
And
I was a kid, they were giving out full-size Nutrageous bars. Yeah, it was
yeah.
like the you won the lottery or something.
Nutrageous was a good bar. I don't think they still make it, do they?
You know where you can get it? At
No.
Chocolate World.
I love it.
Because I took, my daughter there about 2 or 3 years ago, and on the
Uh-huh.
plane, I brought home, like, the giant size that, like, they stack
I love it.
in
I'm
grocery
making a
store.
note right now.
Yeah, you can find it if, like, like, the cities that have, like, a Hershey store, they usually
Yeah,
sell them in there. You can find them.
I
Um,
love it.
that and Take Fives.
Ooh, yeah, Take Fives are excellent. That is
Big
an
fan.
excellent candy bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has
I don't
my
even
5 favorite things in it, whatever they are. They're all my
whatever it
favorites.
is, those are the 5 that I enjoy most.
It's absolutely true.
They cut
Oh,
out there
no.
probably was like a 6th thing that just didn't make sense, like nougat
Uh-huh.
or something. Um,
Whoever developed that recipe knew what they were doing.
someone there was some sort of like test audience where they're like, "What if we added one more thing?" And
The
whoever that
focus group was like, "Absolutely not.
yeah, like or
Absolutely."
there's some creative that was in the back and like, you're not putting a sixth fucking thing in my bar. Look,
Exactly.
I'm putting
I
my
can't
foot
fit it on the
down.
layout. There's absolutely no
I'm
room.
putting my foot down. I
Yeah.
will walk.
Uh-huh. Yes. And we've all had that conversation, so
I don't even know where to go from here. But I would say the only other thing that comes to mind is we still do have a tin of figgy pudding spam.
Oh, yeah. We
For,
talked about that last
yes,
episode as well.
no takers this year. And luckily,
Ooh.
I can't imagine there's an expiration date on that either. So
I'll send you a self-addressed stamped envelope if you send it to me.
if you want it, it's all yours. Like
We'll work that out after the stay
my
on the line after the call.
my
Exchange
better half would
information.
love to have it out of the house. Um,
Wonderful.
all right, so the movie we discussed and we kind of alluded to is The Recipe Files, which
It is.
not Hallmark, not Lifetime, but
Nope.
a home shopping network slash QVC produced a movie, which is also a part of I have my notes in front of me, which I'm frantically trying to find. Nicely Entertainment, which I had never heard of until 2 or 3 episodes where we did what the heck was it with Melissa from Midwest Monsters reporting for Christmas. They had also
Okay.
produced that one. But this one was made specifically for Home Shopping Network, and you can stream it
Yes.
on Home Shopping Network site. And I think last year, I know that they put one out that David Venable was in. And
Yes.
I did not watch it, but I got very
No.
excited that he was in there and then forgot about it months later.
Uh-huh.
He's also in this one along with a couple other Home Shopping Network hosts and
Yes.
sort of contributors as well, which I was kind of surprised about. But the reason why, like, I think the last time you were on, we discussed a lot about our mild obsession for Home Shopping Network and
And
QVC
and and in the kitchen with David in particular.
and yeah, specifically, like he is really my go-to. And I think we talked a lot about it. Like he's just a very warm, nice man. And like
Yes.
even I think I'd mentioned like during the pandemic where there was just a lot of awful things on Facebook and everywhere else. Like for some reason, his feed was always just like,
Yeah.
you're doing great. Thanks for,
Yeah.
helping us and all this. So it was very nice. So this
We
year,
love him. Yeah.
after our conversation on the last episode, I saw the trailer for this and I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely, this is perfect. So,
It's the perfect match.
and then outside of that, the cast is just kind of bananas. So, starting with the director, Lindsay Hartley, who I had never heard of, but she has been in a ton of episodes of General Hospital. She was in
Ooh.
168 episodes of Days of Our Lives. She's been in a ton of things. And then out of nowhere, like started writing Hallmark-esque
Huh.
movies, and a few Lifetime ones. In fact,
Amazing.
I think a couple that we may have even done for the show, but like I was just kind of blown away by everything that I was looking at. She did A Christmas Frequency, which is not one we did for the show, but we had discussed it with Evan when he was on, starring Denise Richards. Um, she had directed that. Like, there's just if you look at her IMDb page, you'll just keep scrolling through and be like, "What is happening
Uh-huh.
here? Like, who is this person?"
She's
Um,
got the chops though. She honed her skills on this particular kind of storytelling, right? This soap opera,
100%.
this dramatic arc.
Like, and we'll get into it. Like, there's a lot of confusion and a lot happening here, but directorially or whatever the words are, like it's a great looking movie. Like it looks
Sure.
professional. I think you hear the words like QVC Home Shopping Network made for TV movie. You're like, all right, what's happening
Right.
here? But it's got some stuff to it.
It does. It absolutely does.
Stars Morgan Bradley as Isabel, Doug Noble as Ben, Ashley Simpson of Ashley
Yeah.
Simpson fame as
Yeah.
Kate, and then a list of other people. There's this guy Paul who used to be a wrestler. Uh,
Is he the cop?
he is
The
not. Paul was.
Oh.
What did he popped up at one point? Yeah, Sid the cop, Sid O'Connell, not a former wrestler. Like I don't know what
Amazing.
his deal was, but yeah, he looked like what's his name? Who's in all those Guardians of the Galaxy movies?
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was thinking of Dave Batista. I think is his name
Oh,
from
yeah.
like he looked like he could be a stunt double if he needed one. But yes,
Sure.
a lot of rock vibes as well. Like if those
Yeah.
2 maybe got together and had some sort of child,
Yeah.
that would be it. But the only thing I recognized him from was The Dead Don't Die, which was that
Okay.
what's his Jarmusch name I'm saying wrong.
Okay.
He did like a zombie movie a few years back. Paul London used to be a wrestler. He played Paul in this. I remember seeing him. I could not tell you what specifically scene he was in,
Yeah.
but it was very quick. And then David Venable's in there, Tara Tesher, who I think is one of the hosts also, and then a few people that apparently sell products on there,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
what kind of threw me off. And
Uh-huh.
I'm curious what your I don't even know where to begin. What your kind of expectations were going into this. And then, sorry, I should step back also. Since the last episode, how many Hallmark movies have you just partaken in? And it's fine to say 0.
Yeah, I had not kept up, but after this one, perhaps I will. Um, yeah, my viewing fell off, but I do appreciate them, and I
Fell off
appreciate that
fell
this
off when I
platform
started with
exists.
1
And
and then
I didn't continue. Yeah, I started strong though, and there was a precipitous drop from 100% to 0.
0.
Uh, however, um, this film, I think, like I do you like I'm calling it a film.
Yeah,
I I sort of was like, oh, it will be like a Hallmark movie, but like there will be like a few cameos of like
yep,
people we recognize, right? Like
yep,
David will come to like a party and say a line or whatever.
yep,
What I did not realize is that it would be product placement from shot one all the way to the
yep.
end, and I'm not gonna get into it right now, I'm sure we'll discuss it, and then
Mhm.
the commentators, like,
Oh,
breaking into the movie, I was like, "What is this?"
I am so that was my next question, if you actually watched those, because there were a few that I skipped through.
I skipped some of them too, I was like, "I don't like either of you, and I don't think you're telling me anything of value."
It was a weird tone, and I should say, so you can
Yes.
watch this on the HSN QVC app, and it's
Yeah.
completely free. Like, I don't even know if
Uh-huh.
you have to sign up for an account. Um,
Yeah.
but they have almost like, like, those Saturday night, like, horror movie hosts and stuff
Right.
where, like, they chime in and kind of give
Sure.
info or whatever and do banter. They were, and I'm not trying to be mean here, so unlikable. Like,
Agreed, and they didn't appear to like each other either, so
no, or the movie or Home Shopping Network.
No, no.
I was so confused about their tone and, like, what they were
Uh-huh.
doing there.
Yes.
I think it's a missed opportunity to have someone like David or any of the other hosts, and maybe they are hosts and I've just missed it, but, like,
And, like,
what
what about, like, a little skit or something, like a
yeah,
Svengoolie sort of like, oh, like, so
exactly.
like, it's a little fun thing that's happening that is
No.
in parallel to the film, but not just being like, "You just saw a son be upset that his mother may have been killed." Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, I get it. Like, I did just see that.
The gentleman specifically seemed so annoyed with everything.
He certainly did, and I was like, "Are you being paid or no?" Like, I just
Like, I have to assume that they were just told, "Just go in a room and do this. Look, nobody here is gonna check what you've done. Like, we just
Right,
gotta
right,
get
right.
something out." But, like, it felt weird that that kind of got past things because at the
Uh-huh.
heart of it, I don't know if you watched it, like, on your laptop or we watched it
I
on
did.
our TV has, like, an app where you can install,
Ooh,
like, it's one of the
nice.
same
Yeah.
so we watched it on the TV, and at certain points, if clicked something on the remote, you could actually see and purchase some of the products that are in there.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah.
and I'm sure through the site too. So at the end of the day, it is there to sell products. And
It sure is.
there were specific times where you're like, okay, this is definitely selling
Uh-huh.
something. But then like these two kind of chime in during breaks, and you're like, are you like
Right.
annoyed with this? Like, why is this happening? So yeah, I
They
was
wanted to
very
be
thrown
in
off.
the film, and they were not cast in the film, is my feeling.
Maybe that's it.
Uh-huh. Little
Maybe, yeah.
sour grapes, perhaps?
Because there
And
was,
then
I
I
think at one point they even made a snide comment about David, if I remember correctly. Like,
and
so
don't talk crap about David in front of
yeah,
me. I
absolutely
don't want
not. Like,
that.
know where your bread is buttered. All right. Like,
For real. For real.
Um,
David was off between Christmas and New Year, and I was like, they're not selling anything,
yeah.
frankly. Like I don't believe that anyone stay. I check, and if he's not on, I'm like, all right, I'll go live my day.
I am, like, sort of ashamed to admit that I did see today that he was, like, coming back from vacation and, like, would
Yeah.
be on, like, yeah. Um, and you alluded to this is a murder mystery, which is
It is.
it seemed like the first time they've done this for HSN because there is, like, a
Uh-huh.
handful of movies that they have on there as well. There's the one that we
Yeah.
mentioned last year that David was in also, like, a brief part, but then
Uh-huh.
there's other ones. I was surprised when I logged in to, like, watch this, there was, like, a handful of other movies that you can watch. So,
Right.
this seems to be, like, a viable thing for them. Um, but I believe this was the first time they've done sort of a murder mystery, which I have recently just started watching the Hallmark versions of these. So I was on board,
Yeah.
confused, optimistic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where to begin.
Okay. I think we should begin at the beginning and
Yeah.
talk about how the okay, so well, I guess this is technically like second scene, but I'll just jump in. So like
Yeah.
Ashley Simpson works at a chocolate shop,
Yeah.
right?
That
A less
sentence alone
a less a
is
less li a less likely chocolatier you will never see.
right?
And she's like, much like the baker's son, she's like, oh goodness.
Totally trying to do that without you noticing, but the
Okay.
heater's going on the back. Everything's fine. I heard
Fantastic.
every word.
So much like the baker's son, she is the child of someone who is good at doing something.
Yep.
The parent has died, and she's apparently no good at it at all.
Mhm.
And much like the bread with chocolate, it's like, how bad can it be, frankly, if it's got good ingredients?
Awful, apparently.
Chocolate's falling out of everybody's mouth, just like the bread. And I was like, oh God, like are all of these movies are like this? Like I don't I don't understand.
This was my first big question because you're right. So Ashley Simpson's mom, and I don't think in this I can refer to her by her actual Kate, I think is her name in the movie, but I don't think I can do that. I think it's just gonna be
No.
Ashley Simpson during the whole thing. So her and Ben is the male lead in this. Their mother has passed away, and we kind of
Yes.
get some backstory. It was like complications from food poisoning, and
Yeah.
she had run a chocolate shop and
Mhm.
apparently had this amazing recipe that she never wrote down. Ashley Simpson, I think, covered the books or all the finances and stuff. Ben is a lawyer.
He is. He
Um,
left to go to the big city
that
as people do.
that whole scene just felt like they were like taking every stereotypical
Uh-huh.
Hallmark sort of trope and
Yeah.
like throwing it there like, well,
Yeah.
Ben, you left to go to the big city to leave your behind for this failing chocolate store and just like
Yeah.
everything dumped in one sentence.
And then coming home for the holidays and finding romance. I mean, absolutely, yes. It's it's all there.
Everything. Um, so yeah, so he comes in and is like Ashley Simpson slash Kate is trying to recreate her mother's recipe and cannot figure it out. And to
No.
your point, like there's only so much you can do with chocolate, right? Like
Yeah.
I've never made it. I don't know specifically the process, but like how awful can it be? But like
And the store is like thousands of pieces of chocolate. They all looked good. They were smooth. They weren't
everywhere.
grainy. Like yeah.
Ben takes a sample and like can't even keep it in his mouth and he spits it
No.
out, which is my first question. Why are you still selling this chocolate?
Like the store is still open. There's customers coming in here and there.
like if it's inedible,
Yeah.
how is this happening? Like, why haven't you been
No.
shut down? Like, what is going
Right.
on?
Right.
So that was my first like big confusion of this whole thing. And it doesn't get any better from there.
No.
Um,
So the film had opened. I skipped to the second scene because I was so confused by the first scene.
the
I'm
first
always
scene,
very confused at the beginning of these films, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm smart enough to watch them. But so there's a woman, and she goes to meet a realtor,
yeah,
and
but she's
she
bought a bakery like sight unseen, just based on the listing, apparently.
and
Uh,
I'm like, what is this town where no one has a lease? Like, no offense, I don't know anyone who owns a store. I mean, I know people do,
yeah,
but like, I'm like, there isn't a lease with an option to buy on this place. You bought it all the way.
or maybe just come out and take a look before you, because So we see like the listing
Yes.
and it's, this beautiful
Yes.
bakery, kind of she reads the thing, ready to move in, start, and then
Uh-huh.
she gets there and like there's flies, like CGI'd flies like
Yeah.
all over the
Yeah, there
place.
are.
I don't know if you noticed in the background, but there was like cobwebs on the wall,
Mhm.
but like the most went to Target and bought some like
Yes.
Halloween cobwebs. Like
Uh-huh.
she goes to like look at the stove and like the knob falls off.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
clearly you could just put it right back on.
No, well, but the realtor was nervous, and I don't know why. She knew she screwed this other lady. I don't know
Yeah,
why she was pretending she cared. She obviously didn't. Whatever.
exactly. But why? And I guess the other question is like, at this point, if Isabel, excuse me, is her name, the main character, has already
Yeah.
bought it. So like, why
Right.
is the realtor there trying to like smooth things over? It's like you screwed
Right.
her. Like at this point, what's the
Well, you know
difference?
why? Because it's a small town and the realtor has like 8 other jobs. That's why she's still there, because she wants to be friends with this lady that she just ruined her life,
Well,
is my assumption.
because she's apparently stealing things from this bakery. Like she had the knob from the oven
She did.
that is in her secondhand store for some reason. Like because it
All of it.
was so confusing. Because at one point, we also meet it's Darcy. Darcy is the
Oh,
friend that's
yeah.
so this entire thing is supposed to take place in Massachusetts. I don't know if
It
they
is.
specifically say which town, but Darcy kind of makes up for the lack of accent from everybody else in the movie.
She does.
Like 100%. Like she doubles down on this
Yeah.
like ridiculous. And I believe if I remember correctly, you are in the Massachusetts area. On a scale of 1 to 100, how offended were you?
It wasn't right. Like, that was the thing. I was like, "Oh, she's, like, from Brooklyn." Like, it sounded more New York to me than it sounded Boston to me.
That's what Leslie and I thought too, or like Long Island sort of. And then
Yeah.
at one point they mentioned Boston, I think, and I'm like,
Yes.
"Oh, I think that's supposed to be like a New England accent."
Uh-huh, and I was like, "Though, so that's not good." I think you asked me during the last movie, like, who would you like best or who would you go off with or something, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
would absolutely be Darcy. Like, she's the
Yeah.
only one in the movie I find redeeming in any way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't wanna spoil it, but she's 100% mine too.
Yeah,
Um, so Isabel now owns this bakery,
she
and
does.
you think alright, there's gonna be tension between Isabel and Kate because Kate's trying to get the chocolate shop back up.
Right.
Isabel is trying to get this bakery going. Isabel apparently has no experience baking, it seems like.
But then she was a award-winning pastry chef too? So,
Very
like, I don't
confused.
there's a little tension there. I'm like,
Yeah.
"What story am I supposed to believe?"
Um, so she goes to Claire's, secondhand store to see if
Yes.
she can find the knob to this, stove, which miraculously is there because Claire had put it in her pocket, like, while
Right.
they were there. And then finds Kate and Ben's mother's recipe book.
She does.
And the whole kind of issue with Kate is that she is not a chocolatier. She can't make these things.
Right.
She knows the ingredients because it's on the back of all their labels, but she doesn't know the proportions. So she's
Right.
trying to find the recipe.
Uh-huh.
So Isabel finds this recipe book, and you're like, oh, okay, this is where we're gonna go. Isabel has the recipes. Ben and Kate need it to like get the chocolate shop going,
Right.
or there's something. Not the case. The recipe book is just pastries
Yeah, baked
because
goods of yeah.
her mother never wrote down the chocolate recipe. Asterisks on that.
Right.
So Isabel makes like a scone or something, and it's amazing, and it's the only thing that she's selling in her shop. Like, did you see at that one scene? There's the entire display case, and the only thing is like this one little thing of like,
Yes. She's being very honest. She's like, "I'm just getting started and this is what I have."
this is what I got. Um, Ben walks by and sort of smells the outside and is like, "Oh, this smells like mom's kitchen." Comes
I wish
in,
we would have seen that double take, but,
like
unfortunately, it was
walking by. Ben, by the way, I do want to talk about him for a few minutes. Gives off some very angry vibes, like in general, like his
he's got
aura.
problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I want to say about 10 minutes in with him, and Leslie looks over and she's like, there's a lot of red flags here. Like, just a lot.
100%. I was like, "No, no, don't. He's not your sidekick or your friend. He's
No.
he's trouble."
He comes in and he's like, "This tastes just like my mother's recipe." He sees
Yeah.
the cookbook and he's like, "I want this. I want it back." And,
Yes.
Isabel ends up giving it to him. He brings it back. Kate is possibly my favorite person in this entire movie because she is just so lackadaisy about this
She's
entire
easy
thing.
come, easy go about literally everything that
Yeah.
happens. She's like, "I guess we'll sell the chocolate business. Oh, I guess the recipe book is back. Oh, I guess you should give it back to her."
Yeah,
Like,
she's like, give it back to her. Like,
yeah.
she'll make mom's recipes. It'll be nice. I don't know what I'm doing
Yeah.
anyway. Ben's like, oh, well, she was about to rip it apart and put it in like
Yes,
plastic
a
for
binder,
keeping.
yeah.
And Kate's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Like,
She's like, "It's literally note pages bound with ribbon. Like, how long do you think that's gonna last?"
now, Kate, knowing weed is legal in Massachusetts, right? Kate could just be taking edibles 24/7. And like
That
that
is
could
true.
explain a
Uh-huh.
lot of her just sort of like her inability to make chocolate, even though she has the ingredients,
Yeah.
her just kind of laissez-faire like mood about everything.
Right. But she's then, like, she's one of those people you're like, "Oh, they're, like, kinda such a space cadet," but then she's
Yeah.
like she keeps kinda being right about stuff too, and it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, okay, then all of
She
the rest of
is
this is
she is Ashley Simpson. Um,
no unnecessary exposition, just the truth." Just
yeah. And then from there on, so Kate says to Ben, like, hey, give it back to her, let her do her
Uh-huh.
thing. And he does. And that's kind of where things take off. We know that there's no sort of confrontation between the two because one is trying to sell chocolate, one is trying to make pastries.
Right.
But then, and I'm curious if you picked up how we got to this conclusion, but so Ben and Kate's mother had passed away, I assume fairly recently.
Yes.
I think um, the idea is that she was complications from food poisoning,
Mhm.
but somehow Isabel comes to the conclusion that no, I think this was murder. And I
She
think
sure
we're going to
does.
try and solve this. And I was not 100% clear on why, other than they find a bunch of recipes in this book, but then there
Oh,
are a bunch that are coded. And
there are.
Ben and Kate's mom was a big fan of, I assume, the Da Vinci Code or like, these sort of
Right.
things. So is Isabel.
Yeah.
And the most insane thing is Isabel like looks at the page, she's like, oh, this is a so and so type of code, like, and then just like cracks
Right.
it. Um, and that's where she kind of comes to the idea that your mom must have been murdered because she was coding
'Cause
things.
she was trying to hide things. So, like, who is after
Yeah.
her secrets and who would benefit, like, and quite frankly, I kind of feel like I mean, obviously, Isabel is an unreliable narrator in a lot of ways. Like,
Yeah.
she has had this traumatic breakup. She has this keychain that tells her how to live her life.
Giant
Like,
keychain. Like
it's like be adventurous, and so she like throws everything away and buys a bakery she's never seen.
that
Like,
thing. It looked like something you would have bought at like the gift shop in like, I don't know, in upstate New
yes,
York, we had Lake George, but like some like
right, right,
crappy
right.
souvenir town. But it was
She's
like
like, my father gave me this. And it's
it's
like,
huge. It's like the size of, I don't know if you ever had Book It, but like the Book It button that you would put the stars on
of
to get your
course
free
I
pan
had the
pizza.
book it button. Of course I did. But
It
yes,
was that size. And supposedly she's keeping it in her pocket
uh-huh.
on her
She has big
keys.
pockets. Yeah.
Like,
But yeah,
yeah.
so like I think that when she sort of makes the leap, and on the one hand, I want to nail him for not caring that his
Mm.
mother may have been murdered. But on the other hand, he doesn't believe her. I don't believe her either, quite frankly. It's like, why are you making all this up? Like, it's probably not even true.
The whole fact that their mother has passed away, may or may not have been murdered, is taken so lightly by
It truly is.
Kate and Ben. And like that at the
Uh
heart
huh.
of it was what I found so confusing. Like they were
Yes.
just like, huh, maybe mom was murdered. I don't know.
Like, literally no upset, like, not any, like, "Oh, goodness, like, here are some things that may have," and I saw a review, I forget where it was, where
Yeah.
people were like, "Why don't her children care that she was murdered?" And I was like, "Right,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Why don't they care?"
The whole thing, it's interesting. So I think we had mentioned like this is the first time I think they've done like a mystery, a murder mystery.
Yeah.
but it still has the same tone as, like, your traditional
Yes.
romance
Uh-huh.
holiday movie. Like, there's no sort of concern that there may be a murder on the loose. Like, these 2
Right.
people who are struggling to keep their mom's business afloat may, be caught up in this. Like, it's just so lighthearted through the entire thing. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's very, very confusing. And
Like, the
then
whole investigation is like a series of dates.
yeah,
And it's like, "Cool,
exactly.
man." Yeah.
And there's all these so Claire is the realtor, like, she's a suspect. There's Annie and Jack, who Annie was the mom's best friend,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Jack is her son, who used to be Ben's best friend, but they had a falling out, which I still am not super clear as to why. They also look a lot alike, so there's certain scenes where I'm like, "What's going on here?"
All of the characters in this movie look the same. Like, all of
There's
the primary characters
a
are
lot of
because like, Ashley
confusion.
Simpson and that other lady, they were in 2 separate scenes to begin with. I
Yep.
couldn't tell the difference between them either.
Exactly. There is one scene too, and between Annie and Jack, mother and son, where Jack
Yeah.
says goodbye to her as he's walking out the door and goes behind and kind of gives like a back rub and then kisses her on the
Yes!
cheek. And I'm like, is that like, I know my family dynamic, we
Uh-huh.
have a weird relationship, but like, even my
Uh-huh.
friends with like the closest with their parents,
That
I've
was a
never
romance
seen.
moment. It was not a familial moment. Yeah.
I thought there was some sort of Game of Thrones thing potentially happening
Yeah.
here or like yeah, a lot of confusion.
It stood out for me as well. Like, I was like, "Absolutely.
Yep.
What the heck is going on here?"
Darcy is the one with the ridiculous accent we mentioned. She is also sort of the, what do they call that? The
Like, yeah,
town
like
watchman?
yeah,
Or
neighborhood
what
watch person, yeah.
there you go. So she had keys to, like, everyone's place, so,
Yeah.
she's a suspect, like, there's so many people in this that, like, it's no wonder we forgot Paul and what the hell he did. Although I do have a note that just says, "Paul, the developer." I don't know what that
Oh,
means.
Paul's the developer. Okay, okay. We only met him once, and
Yes, alright.
he was like, "Wasn't me, call the restaurant." Like, that was his
That's
big
right.
thing, was like, "Call the restaurant." Yeah.
That's right. Um, so there's just, like, anger there. Jack and Ben have this weird argument
Uh-huh.
outside the house. I thought there was sexual tension between those 2 at one point, like,
Uh-huh.
they were
Well,
like,
because
setting yeah.
he was like, "You left. You went to the city and you never came back." And he's like, "I had to pursue my career." He's like, "You think you're better than me." Like, I was like, so
It was very much an argument from, like, a romance
Yes.
scene in one of these
Yes.
other movies. It was so confusing, just
Right.
all over the place. There's this
Uh-huh.
subplot of, like, wine being used in the chocolate, and I guess we can
Yes.
start to get into spoilers because I mean, at the heart of it, I even as
Everyone
we
will
spoil it
obviously wanna see this, so it doesn't
yeah,
matter. Like,
just
you
go
can
watch it now, I
yeah,
guess.
you we'll hang out for the rest of this time.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we can just, talk for an hour and 39 minutes. Skip through the commentary. Just don't even bother with that.
Hot
Um,
tip, you don't need it. I mean,
yeah,
do one so you can realize that that man is a terrible human being and that
yeah,
the woman's pregnant. She mentioned
that's
that at one
right.
point.
And
Yeah.
he's, like, still mean to her.
He
Like,
was very mean to her. She was like, "You should give me a cookie. I'm pregnant." And he's like, "Pregnant women shouldn't eat cookies." And she was like, "Yes, we should."
there's, like, a plate of cookies there. Like, can't you just, like, lean like, even just hold the plate for her, you asshole? Like,
Yes.
give her a cookie.
Horrible.
Um,
Horrible.
which
Yes.
I think were David's cookies, right? Because
Yeah, I guess.
David's scene is there's one idea that, a notice slipped under the door to Isabel saying, like, "Stop
Yes.
snooping," or blah, 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 and they're like, "Okay."
In big loopy cursive, right?
Right? Like, who writes, like, a murder note in, like, calligraphy? Like, sprayed,
Right.
like, perfume on it, and, like,
They're like,
uh,
"Oh."
"This smells like gingerbread," and there's a gift
Exactly.
basket with it. Um
Oh.
So Isabel has this idea that like, all right, I'm gonna open up the bakery. We're gonna have like a big relaunch. We'll have a party. We'll have everyone come and they have to sign up for a raffle. And we'll look at
Mhm.
everyone's signatures, and that's how we'll know who the murderer is. So
Looks like pretty good idea, actually.
not a bad, yeah. Like, I mean, I can't imagine it would work, but
No,
so
and it didn't, so there you
yeah.
go.
And that's where we meet David because he is with there's a David spoken about a few times, and he's a
Yes.
potential suspect, but I forget what his reason why it couldn't have been him, but
I don't
he
I
he came and like his cookies, right? Or did he just
yeah.
have the same name? I know there was some sort of confusion.
Yeah, I think he was just like, "Not me, but boy, are they good," I think, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Um, so I think it's his that he sells on HSN, that
Yes.
they were eating. So like that was one of the product placements. There was like a KitchenAid one. There was
There's
like
a long time of Shinola Watch at one point.
right?
It went on for, like, 15 seconds. I was
It
like, "What in
was
the world?"
there was another scene, right, where and it was I think after we came back from one of the interludes where they're looking at like crockery or something, and one of the hosts, I think from HSN is in there. And Isabel's like, "Oh, yes, I've been meaning to get one of these. They last forever."
Uh-huh. So I'm gonna drop a little knowledge here.
Oh, yeah, please.
That was the Temptation saleswoman who was a
Oh,
consummate professional, and she was
that's
trying
it.
to sell her a 9 by 13, like, woodland crockery with upswept handles, and
Wow.
she was like, "Oh, indeed," like, she could make a cobbler in it or whatever, but then
Yes.
she goes, "I'll just leave this set up here, and you can think about it." I was like, "You're
Yeah.
gonna leave that whole table of your stuff in her bakery?" I'd be like, "Get that the hell out of the way. Like, I'm trying to sell things here.
While
Like,
the murderer's on the loose.
what is all this crockery in my store?" Anyway, yes, so that was intrusive.
So she was yeah, that's right. So she is one of the, like, salespeople on there. Ray, I think, is the other one who
From
comes, like
Rastelli's, yeah.
he walks in with just, like, a basket of meat
He
uncovered.
does. He's ideal.
Yeah. Um, it was
And
actually one of the yeah.
she's like, "Thanks, I'm going through so much meat these days." And he's like, "Just call me anytime for more meat." Like, it's very weird. It's very weird. And then they cut to the commentary and they were like, "Wasn't he great with that meat?" And
Yeah.
they were like, "He was really good." It's like, okay, well, they like him. They don't like the
Yeah.
movie, but they like Ray Rastelli.
That's what I was about to say, like, one of the nicest and it's one of the few that we watched, but, like, the nicest interlude was talking about
Uh-huh.
Ray and his meat pile, like,
Yeah,
it
they
was
were
very
for
nice.
him.
Um,
Yeah.
so they don't figure out who they can't match any of the handwriting after
No.
this thing, and then we get the wine subplot where I guess there was a bunch of chocolates that included wine from Annie and Jack's vineyard, and
Yes.
they are suspects because they want to expand or something along those lines, or there's this other
Uh-huh.
winery that's coming in that has been
Yeah.
wanting to buy the land that the chocolate shop was on, and
Mhm.
Betsy, their mother, had refused to sell, so it's like, okay, maybe there's something there.
Right.
So, at a certain point, Isabel is convinced that Annie and Jack had done this, or maybe just Jack, maybe just Annie,
Right.
comes up with this idea that like, okay, your mom was murdered. She was murdered by food poisoning, and it was because of a bad batch of wine. Because like Jack was supposed to dispose of
Well,
like
and she had,
the
like, stolen the coroner's report, and apparently there was something in there that made her think that it was from the wine. There was a few Googling scenes.
which again, Ben is with her the entire time when they break into the sheriff's office,
Uh-huh.
and he pulls out the or she pulls out the coroner report, and there is not to sound like awful, but like there's a picture of his dead mother on the
There
cover,
is.
and they're just
Yeah.
like flipping through the pages, like, huh, like that's what it's so like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard mom died. Like,
It's bonkers. Yeah, it truly is.
have you ever seen the movie Brain Candy? The Kids in the Hall movie? Like
Oh, I don't think I have, but maybe.
years ago it came out, and there's a scene, the whole this is way more information than anyone needs, but the whole idea is that there's this like candy that you can eat and it just keeps bringing you back to your favorite memory ever, and it gives you that feeling forever. And they try it on this older woman, and her favorite memory was her asshole son coming home for Christmas, and he walks in, he's like, "Hey ma, this smells like turkey, I heard dad died," and like then he leaves, and like that's her happiest memory, like that's the joke.
Oh.
But it felt like that, it just felt like, oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
mom's picture. Anyway, like,
Right,
oh,
right.
wine. It was very odd. um so yeah, so she deduces that it was because of this wine. They break into the winery and discover that like labels were put on the bed. Like I got very confused with the Sour Grapes Winery and whatever the hell they
Yeah,
had
I
going
didn't
on.
have any. I figured it wasn't important for me to keep that
Yeah.
straight. Like I did that at that point in the film, I was like, but here's the thing though. So like first, like when she says, I think it was, did you say her name was Anne and whoever the
Uh,
blind
Anne
people?
is the mother, yes, and Jack
Yeah,
is the son.
I think it was Anne and Jack. Ben loses his marbles
Yep.
and is like, "How dare you? They are our family friends. You are a horrible person." Like he literally is like, absolutely. He's
Yeah.
like, that's enough," and he walks away, and that is the
That's
end.
kind of the
Like
breaking point, right? Like in every one of these movies where the couple, you think they're going to get together and then they have a falling out. Like it's because of
that's
that.
so like that was their major like, okay, this is not going to work out. So that's why Darcy is with her on the escapade.
Yep.
And Darcy has this
Yes.
great line where she's like, "Maybe you chose the wrong sidekick," or something like that. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, maybe you did
Yeah.
actually.
100% did. And this is where I don't know if I said it before we started recording or after, but Kate, Ashley Simpson, has my favorite line in this entire movie. And this is where it is because Ben again storms back to
Yeah,
Kate and is
yeah,
like, Isabel thinks that Darcy and Jack had something to do with this, and I can't believe with our family friends and blah blah blah. And Kate's response is, "Yeah, they do make the most sense that it was them that did it." And I'm just like,
it's literally true.
it's like our childhood friends, like,
Yeah.
this was your mom's best friend that you've known presumably since you were born. And
Uh-huh.
Kate's response is like, "Yeah, I bet they did kill her. Like, I bet that's
No
her."
emotion. No emotion.
It's like,
Not any
mhm,
like, now that I think about it, that's true. Like
yeah,
nothing. She's
nope,
just like, yeah, I suppose that they probably did.
yeah, that makes sense.
It's
That Isabel, she's whip smart. I guess when
like-
you've stared down a Saturday Night Live audience and like gone through what
For
Ashley
real.
Simpson's gone through, just making chocolate and accusing people of murder is,
It's small
it's
potatoes.
it's
Let's
no
say
thing.
that. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so it turns out, and I guess spoiler again, they go and accuse Jack
they
and
do.
he denies it. But then the sheriff comes in and like he's about to arrest Jack because he's,
Yeah.
most likely the suspect. Then Annie chimes in and she's like, "I did it. And
Yeah.
here's why." So the whole story is they were using Annie and Jack's wine in the chocolates and it was going great. But then Betsy, the mother, had come up with a recipe using a different wine, I think
Yeah.
from Sour Grapes,
I
which I
think
think is the
so. But,
other
like, that's a
winery.
terrible name for a
It's an
winery, but yeah, okay.
awful winery name. Um, so Annie was pissed because she is gonna lose all the revenue and
Right.
whatever from this going to the chocolate. So her idea is to murder her mother. No, wait, it's coming back to me.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
just wanted to poison everyone a little bit. So
Exactly.
so she had replaced the labels on the Sour Grapes wine with hers or vice versa. No,
Yeah, I think vice versa.
vice
Yeah.
versa. The batch that Jack was supposed to dispose of that was tainted and
Yes.
bad, she had replaced with the Sour Grapes label. So Betsy's mom started using that in the chocolate. And here's the most insane thing, which I know I've said like 4 or 5 times. Betsy, the mother, tastes it and says, "This does not taste right. I cannot sell it." Eats the entire batch herself, which
Amazing.
how much chocolate was there and how quickly did she eat all this?
Right, right, right. Who
Like
knows, though? It could have been a point in the month where she needed chocolate, frankly, I
a
understand.
lot,
And
a
she's
lot.
like, "Listen." Well, and we
Because
don't know, it's small maybe it's small batch. She's only making 12 chocolates at a time for all we know.
because Annie's plan was to get this chocolate out there.
Yeah.
Everyone that's trying it gets like a little sick and Betsy realizes like, "Oh, this sour
Oh,
grapes
yeah.
wine is awful. We'll go back to
Yes.
using Annie's wine."
Right.
But instead she ends up murdering Betsy because Betsy eats the entire batch, which we don't know
Yes.
how much it was, but it does not seem well thought out, like on Annie's part in any sense of the term. And also, I'm concerned about Betsy and how much chocolate she potentially ate in one sitting, like
Right.
just to dispose of it. Like,
We don't wanna speak ill of the dead, however,
no,
she made
obviously.
she made a poor judgment. She made a poor judgment.
Like,
Um,
because they set it up like, oh, well, I can't sell this, so I guess I gotta eat 9 pounds of chocolate right now, because what
Right,
else
right,
do you do?
right.
Versus
Or was it like
yeah,
she put it aside and she was like slowly and cumulatively, like,
maybe,
I don't know
yeah,
what the poison was, but it's like, right, well, maybe she ate it
yeah.
over the course of a week or something, and it's like,
I
right,
don't know
well,
if bad wine can build up in your system, maybe that's the case.
I
I
have
don't know.
no idea.
I mean, again, if Ashley Simpson was running the place, she would've just put it in a display and been like, "This is unedible, but, what do we do?" Like,
It's a
"For
chocolate shop.
sale." Yeah.
That's it.
Um, so that's where things kind of wrap up. Um, we catch, Annie. She is now going to jail or something. Ben, I think, is gonna represent her or try and, like, help her, even
Yeah, he's
though
like, "But
she
that confession, man, I don't know."
yeah,
Right,
that
yeah, what are you
confession
gonna do?
about murdering my mom.
Yeah, that's
What do
that's
you
gonna be
do?
tough to overcome. Yep.
Um, so, then we get this scene with Isabel. She goes and sees, Sheriff Ethan, and, like,
Yeah,
at a certain point, I thought they implied that maybe she was an undercover cop too, or because he mentioned about, like,
yeah,
blowing her cover or something. I was very confused by that.
yes,
Um, and then obviously Isabel and Ben kiss at the end,
they
and,
do.
like,
Yes,
that's kind of where we're left,
several
but
times.
I'm under the impression that this is gonna be a series, or they're hoping it will be, because,
Right.
it's the recipe files. I assume there's gonna be other ones. I hope.
Oh, indeed. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good observation.
because I do know a lot of Hallmarks, like, their mystery ones, they're series, so, like, they start and
Uh-huh.
then there's, follow-up ones, so I don't know. Maybe we'll see where this goes, but
And also there's, like, a slow build about, like, Ashley Simpson and the son of the murderer,
and Jack, yeah, yeah.
and it's like, "Shoot, man, like, his mom killed your mom, so I feel like your romance is kinda dead in the water at that point." I mean, they
You
never
would
mention it again, like
You would think, but based on the way that this town is running, like, Ben is literally gonna represent his mom's
Yeah,
murderer.
yeah.
So, like, why can't Ashley Simpson date Jack, you know?
And she's unbothered by almost anything, and
It's
Jack is
true.
very cute, so I
He
think that's
is.
good enough. Yeah.
Jack is, he's probably the nicest guy in this entire thing. Like, he's
Yes,
a
he is.
little goofy, comes off as a little dim in certain points, like,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
frustrated by lights and all that, but, you know,
Right.
if you're gonna go with someone, Ashley Simpson, like, he seems like
Uh,
she's
yes.
Pete Wentz, I think, was her ex-husband of one of those, like yeah,
Yeah, one of those, like, pop punk
yeah.
bands.
So,
Yeah.
Jack is probably, smooth sailing for her.
I
Um,
agree, I agree. He's not gonna put her through any turmoil.
no, I I'm sure we miss things, but I am so kind of confused. Like, there was a lot of code and decoding things that, like, kept popping up, but
Yes, I was like, "Are they trying to sell that notebook?" Like, because we saw so much of the
a
writing, I was like,
lot of
"Oh gosh,
notebooking.
this is going on for some time."
Yeah, and there was a lot. I think that's the whole thing. Like, there was just a lot, and I
Uh-huh.
had a lot of like I found at a certain points I would rewind and be like, "Oh, I feel like I just missed a
Yeah.
key moment." And then at a certain point I just stopped. I'm like, "You know what? This
Yeah.
can't all be relevant." And I don't think it was, you know?
I was like, "I think this maybe deserves a second watch, but I don't think I'm doing it." I think that once
Yeah.
is enough. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't,
It was
I got it. I got most of the salient points, I feel.
yeah. That being said, and we can kinda get into thoughts, I did enjoy it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it is bananas, and it is not, like, coherent through most of it, but it was a lot of fun to watch, and,
Mhm.
I goofed on it, but I did have a lot of fun watching it, especially I don't
Yeah.
know if you watched it alone or with someone, but, like, it's definitely a
Yeah.
good watch together and kind
Yes.
of laugh.
Necessary almost, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like, it's goofy, but it's not awful, right? Like, it's not, like,
For
unwatchable
real.
bad. Like, it's fun in a maybe not intentional way, but it's still fun,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, it reminded me of, like, when you're in high school and it's, like, senior week and everyone, like, records, like, sketches or whatever, and
Yes,
it's like they're terrible and the acting is bad, but you're like, "It's Steve from math class." Like, and you're just like, it's a kick.
100%. At one point, and I give this credit to Leslie because I can't take it, but she said, "Is this some sort of project, or is this, like,
Right,
someone's,
right.
like, like, hobby?" Because it
Yeah.
does have that vibe, but with professional sort of filming and, like, settings
Yes.
and stuff, and Ashley Simpson. for some
And
reason.
Ashley Simpson. I did have a thought about, I own a small business. I don't have a brick and mortar, but I know a little bit about it. Uh, the amount of merchandising, and I get it. This is all product placement. This is all QVC. These are decorations they sell.
Yep.
But I was like, this woman just bought a decrepit building with bad equipment to
Yep.
run a bakery in, and like the second time they come back, it's like decked wall to wall with like a
Yeah.
thousand billion decorations, and it's like
Tchotchkes, like, out the wazoo. Not a
where did all these
pastry in
come
sight,
from?
but a ton of tchotchkes.
And it's like Jessica Simpson, the same thing. Sorry, I should be calling her her real name, but she same thing. It's like even when the Jack comes in and he's like, oh, he keeps like dropping the Santa. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he likes her because his tchotchke is
That
falling down.
was so, it felt like I was watching, like, one of those parody movies from, like, the early
Uh huh.
2000s, like, Not Another Teen Movie or something, because,
Right,
like,
right.
he drops it, and then he drops it again, and then I expected, like, the entire thing to just, like, crumble underneath him or something.
Right. You
Um,
would think.
and then the other thing, as you mentioned, it popped in my head, there was one scene where Isabel is, like, decoding something, and
Yeah.
they drag those scenes out a lot, like,
Mhm.
so you get the impression that this is going on for hours, and during the second one, Kate and Ben are sitting there watching her for the entire
Yep.
time, but, like,
They
watching
are.
her like she was like an animal in a zoo, just
Uh-huh.
like, "Uh-huh, yep, there she goes," and Ashley Simpson is there, like, fixing some, like, crafts that are in the storm, just like, "Why aren't you helping?" Like,
Is
you
there
know
does she need a cup of coffee perhaps?
Yeah,
No, because they're drinking cocoa in every scene.
yeah,
There's so much
a
cocoa in
lot of
this
it,
movie.
but
But
also,
yes,
like,
I agree.
at a certain point, there's, like, a key, right, that you can use, like, "Alright,
Yes.
this means A, this means B," like, pitch in, Ashley Simpson, alright?
Yes.
Put the, like, snowman down and, like,
Right,
maybe
you're wise. We've
yeah,
seen that over and over again. You
like, I
you
don't
cut to the heart of the
expect it
matter.
from Ben because, he's got his issues, but Ashley Simpson, I think
Poor Ben.
you potentially could help. So yeah, I don't
Yes,
know.
but
Anything else we missed or yeah,
yeah,
I'm
that went on for quite some
sure there
time.
is. Um,
Um, I was reminded I
yeah,
don't know if you ever saw the film, it's a cult classic called Return of the Killer Tomatoes.
I've
This
seen Attack, and I'm sure I've seen Return, but not in many, many years.
so Return stars George Clooney, in one of his earlier appearances, so it's worth the watch.
Yeah.
Um, it's hilarious, but they hit a point in the film and the director goes, "Cut, cut," and they, like, pan over to the director and he's like, "We're out of money. We're all going home, like, whatever. We didn't get the funding didn't come through." And, like, everybody is like, "What? What the heck? Like, I gave up a pilot for this. Like, why are we whatever." And George Clooney's, like, in the makeup chair with, like, his tissues around his collar, and he's like, "Guys, I mean, you just gotta hop on board. The answer is product placement." And he was like, "Product placement will, like, solve everything, whatever." So, like, the next scene, this man, like, walks into, like, the pub or whatever, and the bartender's like, "You look thirsty. What can I get you?" And he's like, "Ooh, I'm just parched. It's dry. I'm parched." And he's like, "When I'm parched, I have a Pepsi Cola." And then he's like, "Yeah, but sometimes you're just feeling a little." And he's like, "Ah, perhaps you want a beer, right? Foster's Down Under." Like, and it's like one thing after another. And he's like, "Have a
Yeah.
Crest." And it's like, right, like the entire, this is like a sort of running gag through
Yeah,
the
yeah,
film
for sure.
to a certain point, and then they're like, enough of this, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a gag. This movie felt so much like that to me,
It's
where it was
it's an
like,
hour and a half of that for sure. Yep.
and I was like, whoa, like it if they could have found a way to make it funny, like it's really a missed opportunity a
Yeah.
little bit.
I mean, I think they did in some respect, but I don't know if it was
Yeah.
intentional, and
Right, right, right,
it's
right.
it's no knock, but yeah, I know exactly what we were talking about. I remember Wayne's World did the exact same thing, right? It was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, here, try these, Nuprin, little, yellow,
Right.
different."
Y-
Um, that's so funny.
For
I've not thought about those movies in years. I remember
yeah.
the first Killer Tomatoes was like a Saturday night staple on, like, our local TV.
Yeah.
Like, you were talking about, like, Svengoolie, like, whoever R1 in
Yeah.
upstate New York was, like, it was
Yeah.
always on, and I that seems like a good one to watch with the kids because I can't imagine it's anything more than
No,
PG.
there's nothing, yeah, there's I
Yeah,
was gonna say there's I don't think there's anything out of bounds in those films.
yeah. I just remember the theme song from the first one, which is literally, I think, just Attack of the Killer Tomatoes over and
Yeah,
over again.
because
It's a
the
good one.
return is just Return of the Killer Tomatoes
Probably,
over and
yeah,
over again. So
that makes
yeah,
sense.
that seems
Um,
ideal.
alright, so the recipe files. Thumbs up, thumbs down, where do you go?
I would say I would say thumbs up because
Yeah.
I'm in the holiday spirit.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna go too. Like, I think,
yeah.
like we said, it's, it's goofy. Maybe it's not intentional, but it is a lot of fun. And,
Yes.
especially if you're going to watch it with someone else or just high or God knows what, like
Whatever you prefer. Yeah.
it's 100% a fun watch. And I know we
Uh-huh.
spent a lot of time goofing on it, but it was like, I had a really good time watching it. So,
Yes.
you can't fault that.
And
And
I
then,
was
yeah,
puzzled a lot. Like it left me I was on the edge of my seat a few times.
same. Absolutely. And then I think we already said Darcy would probably be our happily ever after, right? Like, I
For
don't know who else you'd,
real.
pick from this.
Although I will say, we didn't talk too much about David's performance. Like I
Oh,
don't feel like we really
that
discussed
is
like your
true.
feelings
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
So were you did it
He
meet your
was
expectations?
It
Yeah.
did. I think the only thing I wanted was more. And
Yeah.
I'm a little ashamed to admit that when he came on screen, like, I made an audible sound like, "Oh,"
There
like,
he
there he
is.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was David. He was exactly David,
He
from
was.
what you know. You don't know much about David. I don't know anything other than his mother. He goes to visit a lot, but outside of
Yep.
that, that's all I got. And,
It's literally ideal. I don't wanna
yeah,
know a damn thing about famous people, and he's a
absolutely
really good
not.
example. It's like, listen, it's
If
totally if anything ever comes out about him that's, like, bad or, like, discredits him, that's the end for me.
That's 100%. I have a short list, and now I'm curious, like, what yours is, but, like, David is one of them. I think Steve
Mhm.
Martin and Martin Short would be 2 that,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
if something happens there, like, it's a very short
Yes.
list. Garrison Keillor was on mine, but then he did, and I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
like, how does
Yeah.
this?"
No, it's tricky.
What do
But
you
I
have anyone else? Like,
definitely I I know I don't think so. I try to not consider it too much
yeah,
because I don't wanna be disappointed, and I recognize, like, uh yeah, there's, like no one owes you anything, but you
yeah,
just my feelings about somebody have nothing to do with who they are, it's just my perception or whatever, and
yeah,
it's like, "Right, but I just hoped that you didn't, whatever, assault a woman," or
yeah,
whatever, like, my hopes are pretty
exactly.
low. Like, it's not like I'm expecting them like, if they
Which is
met me to be nice,
so
like,
sad
just
that a lot of times they are not met, right? Like,
right, like, even that is not good enough. But the David scene, yes, there wasn't quite enough of it. I felt
mhm,
that he was a little restrained. Like, I
mm.
felt like he was less exuberant. There was no happy dance. Like,
I
there
was
was
about to
like, there
say I coulda used the happy dance when he was eating the cookie or something.
yeah, like, I mean, he was good, but you know what I loved in that scene is
Mhm.
that Steve was in it. Big Bite.
Ah.
Did
Yep,
you
yep, yep.
recognize him?
Yes.
And I thought he did a really good job. He was kinda off the chain. He was very
Yep.
exuberant. And I don't know if you saw this, it was on QVC, like, I don't know, several months ago,
Mhm.
but,
I hope I didn't.
you know,
Nothing personal.
he
Like, I'm so scared that, "Oh, yeah, we did see that."
but Steve came on and he was like David was like, "You have to try a bite of this, whatever, fruitcake or
Uh-huh.
baked mac and cheese," or whatever it was, and Steve takes an enormous bite of it because like, that's his shtick,
That's what
right?
he does, yeah.
Um, because David had told him, "Take little bites," and he took a big bite, whatever, and that's how he got the nickname. But, like, he goes, "Big bite," and, like, whatever, and then he turns to the camera and he goes, "I just wanna tell all of you, when he first started, I told him to take little bites, and then he took this enormous bite, and I called him Big Bite." He's like, "But after we cut, I turned to him and I asked him, 'Does it bother you that I called you Big Bite? I will never do it again if it bothers you.'"
Oh,
And he got consent from Steve that that could be his nickname, and I was like, I mean, I
that's
love
just
that
the
you shared that.
nicest thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
It's like, right, you're not ragging on him, you're just like, "We're friends, and this is, like, a funny thing I recognize
that's your
about you."
thing now. Yeah, yeah. It's not like,
Yeah.
was it The Office Big Tuna that, like, now I'm just gonna
Right,
call you that
right.
forever. It's like, "No,
Uh-uh.
this is
Like,
our pet
Steve's in
names
on
for each
it.
other." Yeah.
Yeah,
That
but I
makes
was
me
like,
very
"Oh
happy.
gosh, consent culture at QVC, I'm for it."
David, I
David.
I I assume he's like some sort of robot or something, like he's
Yeah.
man-made and just, which I'm 100% fine with.
Yeah.
Um, all
Yeah,
right,
it's
so I
fine
think
with
we
me as well.
thumbs up. We did our happily ever after. I think that's it for the recipe files. We do have a few questions. Smalltownfailingpodcast.com. You can get links to the Instagrams and the socials and all that fun. Instagram, we post up. You can send in questions. We got a few this week, all kind of based around New Year's. Any New
Ooh.
Year's resolutions that you've made?
I am not a resolution human being. I'm not
Yeah.
a New Year's human being. It's like my most depressing time of the year. So like this is not the time I'm making choices, right?
Yeah.
So I always am just sort of like, oh gosh, like if there's something that hasn't been serving me well, certainly I try to put that down for as long as I can. But
I like
like
that.
I'm
That's
I
nice.
am gentle with myself in this season. Like there is no like, oh, I gotta whatever, join a gym or like do like
Yeah.
any of those sorts of I'm not quitting anything. I'm not starting anything up. Like I just am like coasting till spring, maybe.
Yeah, that's perfect, and I love that.
Yeah.
That's kind of a great resolution of just like, "No, alright, I'm just gonna get by," which I feel like a lot of people are probably, these days, like,
Yeah. Do you
that's
do
theirs.
you do you resolve anything?
I don't usually. There's 2 that I've done is 1 year I decided I'm gonna stop making fun of other people's music choices because I just think
That's
that's
tough.
awful, like
It is. It's yucking someone's yum audio wise, but
exactly, like,
still. Yeah.
'cause, I mean, there's certain stuff I'm like, at the heart of it, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I get very angry about, but, like,
I'm the
outside of
same
that,
about them. It's very
I don't know
strange. They make
what it
me
is, they just
angry. Yeah.
irk me,
Yeah, they
but
do.
outside of them, I don't think there's anyone else, and too like, I listen to a lot of, like, metal and awful screaming stuff, and it's like,
Sure.
that all sounds like trash cans being slammed together to most people, so, like,
Uh-huh.
who am I to make fun of anyone else for
Right.
what
Right,
they
right, right.
makes them happy? Um, and then this year, I did consciously say, like, "Hey, I used to really love going to concerts, I think I wanna do that more this year," so I'm
Yeah.
gonna try and force myself, but, like, outside of that, same thing, like, weight loss or anything, you're just kinda setting yourself up to be disappointed, like
Yeah. Yes, and I think, like, being kind of kind to yourself for a while
yeah,
is a great idea,
exactly.
regardless of the time of year. But, yeah,
Uh,
like, I'm trying to be a little more mindful with, like I'm a to-do list person.
mm.
And so I'm trying to be like, right, like maybe I'll write the to-do list and I'll erase 5 things right away and put them on another day.
No, that's
Because like I was like, oh gosh, like I'm working till like 9 every night. And it's like, why
yeah.
am I doing like I work for myself? Like it's my fault. It's like
Yeah,
the long and the short of it.
I make my own hours, like, why am
I
I
could
doing this?
choose to do a little less maybe.
Yeah,
So yeah, that
what was
seems
I gonna
good.
say? I saw on TikTok, where the kids are, I saw one today where, like, a woman was talking about someone came into her shop, and she said her resolution was to try 10 different kinds of cheeses this year, and
Yeah.
it was the 2nd, and she had gone to a wine party and had tried new like, 9 different kinds of cheeses. She was
Yeah.
like, "I'm done, like, I'm pretty much done," so
Ideal.
like, that
Yes.
sort of thing, I think is good.
And like fun resolutions like that are a
Yeah,
good way to go. Yeah.
the next one, and I think I know the answer just based on what we've talked about. How did you spend your New Year's? And by all means, if it's not a great time for you, by no means do you have to answer.
Can you imagine? I'm like launching into like the most depressing
Yeah,
story. No.
yeah.
What did we do? We made some sort of good meal
Oh,
and we ate we got one of those tins of 3 kinds of popcorn and we ate some of that.
oh, oh,
We
sir.
watched
What
some
what
yeah.
were the flavor? No, 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 no. Hold up. What was the what were the flavors though?
It was the traditional assortment. So butter and then like powdered cheese and then
Yep,
caramel.
yep.
And I'm trying to keep the levels like even. It's very difficult though cuz some of them are better than others.
Butter's always
Uh,
the last, right? Or is it
Right.
the
Well,
caramel?
this butter is pretty good,
Yeah,
so it's keeping up. But and we watched a couple of movies, and that was it. And
nice.
he was like, "Oh, should we put on like the ball drop at midnight?" And I was like, "I don't want to see Ryan Seacrest for 1 minute.
No, no.
That'll be 10 seconds. I never get back. I don't care for him."
I don't either. Yeah, we so there was our biggest gripe. So we were down in Virginia at my wife's family, and we
Uh
went
huh.
to my sister-in-law's house for New Year's, and they only had like a few people over. It was very small,
Uh huh.
but it's the South, and it was
Yeah.
Sunday, so there was
Yeah.
football on, and I went to an
Oh,
art school and watch a lot of Real
indeed.
Housewives and do not give a shit about football.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we in the past had watched Miley Cyrus's countdown, which
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever watched hers, but I think it was 2 years
No.
ago. She co-hosted with Dolly Parton,
Oh, I
and
did see some clips from that one.
it
Yeah.
was like I turned it on, and like speaking of not making fun of other people's music, I'm like, oh, Miley Cyrus, so and like
Right.
amazing voice. I think she's great, but I had no real interest in like
Right.
hearing the music or anything. But like she did duets with like David Byrne from the Talking
Yeah.
Heads, Dolly Parton. Paris Hilton came out and sang her song from like the early 2000s with her.
Huh.
Like It was amazing, and,
Huh.
like, to the point where I think it was last year we got together with friends, like, a little bit after New Year's, but we wanted to do, like, a New Year's type party. I was
Right.
trying to find it streaming so we could watch that and pretend like that
Yeah.
was our but no, because it was Sunday Night Football, I guess NBC or wherever it was did not do a show because football gets higher
Interesting.
ratings. So, yeah, like, so, we hung out, we had a good meal, and then we went
Right.
home. It was kind of a, meh.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's never, yeah, it is never. Even when I was young, I was like, what a depressing day this is.
oh,
Like, I just
there's
was never, yeah.
the only like fun I think we've had is like when we do like maybe just with our friends from Milwaukee or just us at
Yeah.
home. Like going to parties and stuff is never fun. There's so
Right.
much pressure of like, oh, we're gonna have fun, and
Right, right, right. I'm wearing glasses with the numbers.
yeah.
That's it.
I love the
Um,
meme that's like every year I don't know how they're gonna do it, but every year they get the
every year
numbers,
they do it, yeah.
they figure it out.
I will say though, I like a spread of hot appetizers, and that
Yeah,
happens at New Year's Eve. It doesn't happen that often, but it's like I want to walk down the line and get a potato skin,
it is nice.
get
Yeah,
a pig in a blanket, get a little nugget of hot pretzel with some nacho cheese. Like I want all of that.
we
So,
try and do like if we're staying at home, which most times we do. We try and build like a seafood tower with like shrimp and then
oh,
like crab legs and then like anything else, and then a
damn.
lot of like crab cakes from the oven and
Sure.
like crab
Oh, I
rangoons and
love
all that
it.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
You're high class, much more
It's
so than me.
it
I'm like, "Come
sounds
to my
high.
house, there's Fritos."
It sounds high class, but it is very like. I mean, I will say the last couple of years we've gone to like Whole Foods and done like oysters and stuff, but
Ooh,
like
that is fancy.
the heart of it is a lot of just like once I get a few in me, it's pizza rolls and,
Yeah,
all that sort of fun. Which, by the
yeah.
way, like not completely off topic, pizza rolls, yay or nay, or where do they kind of fall into the
So
indestructible food?
I made pizza rolls. So they're not technically because 'cause they're frozen, it has
Yeah.
to be shelf stable, so whatever. But I made pizza rolls not this New Year's Eve, but last New Year's Eve,
Mm,
and I wrote a whole article about how the pizza roll is the perfect vehicle to bring you into the new year
yeah.
because it has, like, the crispy crust, like, protects you from harm, and the stretchy
Oh, that's
cheese goes as
beautiful.
far as your dreams. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was a good it was an inspired piece of writing,
That's
and I love
beautiful.
pizza rolls. Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Big fan. In fact, since you mentioned that, I remember because I still use Time Hop like an old person because I like to see like, oh, 7 years ago today we did
Sure.
this. There is one, and I think it is like 7 or 8 years ago. It's just a picture of pizza rolls, and I
Yeah.
wrote a note to myself that, you know, 2017 is the year that I will only eat things in roll form,
Yeah, that's delicious.
and
What a
I
good
failed.
idea.
Like,
Well,
that's
sure. It's
yeah,
that
um,
was a that was a resolution that would be very hard to achieve.
yeah,
But like a Swiss cake roll,
yeah, there you
a
go.
cinnamon roll. I mean, you have choices. A sushi, you'd eat a lot of sushi that year.
Yeah. I have 2 recommendations for your pizza roll, you know, whatever.
Okay.
They just came out with, White Castle pizza rolls.
Don't lie to me.
No, 100%. And,
Making a
yeah,
note.
they're Tostinos, they make it, but it's White
Okay.
Castles on the inside, and is surprisingly, you know, whatever. And
Yeah.
2, I don't know why I've always done this since I was a kid, but pizza rolls, I will put soy sauce on them, and it is
Ooh.
a real nice touch, like,
Okay. I'll try that next
give
time.
it a
And
go.
if I do try it, I will give you credit on the
Yeah.
internet if I talk about it. So
It's, yeah, yeah, it's always and Leslie, like, scoffed at me the first time she saw me do it. I mean, she scoffed at me a lot when she sees
sure.
me eating pizza rolls in general, but, like, then one night she's like, "Alright, like, this makes sense." Because I think it's because, like, the outside does have a very, egg roll sort of
It does. The
texture and
dough
flavor
is
to it.
not pizza dough,
Yeah,
certainly. Like, it's
yeah,
absolutely kind of more wonton wrapper than
yeah.
yeah.
So,
Uh,
give it a try. Um,
yeah, absolutely, and you get a little umami in there because it's like
yeah.
a pretty mild flavor.
Yeah, it's good. All right, last question from Instagram. Best gift you got this holiday season?
Ooh.
Do
Uh,
you do
I'm
gifts?
I'm
Is
looking
it
around to see if I can see any of them. You
yeah.
tell me yours first, and then I'll tell you mine.
So mine is actually right next to me. My wife, I'm a big like Funko Pop fan. Like I've got,
Yeah.
I'm a child. My wife actually made one. Like I guess you can customize them.
Is it you?
It is, yeah. The shine is kind of rolling, but he's holding coffee and another Funko Pop in there. But it's as close to me as you're gonna get. Like,
It looks just like you.
yeah, I like to think so.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that was my wife. I think I've told this story before, but like we don't really do gifts. Like
Right.
years ago, we kind of said like, hey, we're joint income. Like if we want to
Right,
buy
right, right.
something, we just talk about it and we do it. So
We
we do like
do.
our stockings, but like that's it. But there's always like
Yeah.
something like that in there.
Right,
So
right.
that
Like,
that
I know
definitely was
you and
mine.
I thought of you is, like, a
Yes,
nice way to go.
exactly. Yeah.
So Paul renewed our subscriptions to the Buster Keaton fan club. So I
Oh
got
my
my new
god, that's
yeah,
amazing.
my new membership card and my new lapel pin came in. So like that was a pretty big deal.
Oh, that's nice. Like
Yeah.
like that sort of stuff that I think is like jewelry and things like that, it's obviously very nice, but like
Right.
something like that I feel like is thoughtful.
Oh,
Like, oh,
right. You
um,
like this stupid thing and so do I. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. Mine, so not to like toot my own horn, but like my wife and I, we watch a lot of Love Island UK. And
Ooh,
in
okay.
general, my wife is, just kind of fascinated by the royal family and that whole thing.
Uh-huh.
So I set up a dinner. Now I'm just like tooting my own horn, but there's
I'm for it.
a woman that I work with, her husband is from the UK and they spend a lot of time there and kind of, I talk to her every once in a while about it and she kind of knows a lot about like the areas and
Yeah.
really at the heart of it. And this sounds terrible, but like Geordie Shore we watch, which is like their version of the Jersey Shore.
Uh-huh.
And like we kind of want to know about like what's your like trashy areas and like what's the
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
you know, so we're going to go out to dinner and just pelt them with questions and like that is the gift to her to like just be able to spend an evening asking like every ridiculous question we've ever had which
That's a perfect gift.
I thought was amazing because I'm just a great person.
You
um
are a great person. You take care of the lawn and you gave a
I
good
do love the
gift.
lawn. I do love the lawn.
You have a cool podcast. I mean, really, you're
It's
you're
re-
a big winner.
this is really why just to boost myself up.
It's
So that's
true.
that's it for questions. I
I
did
love
have
it.
so we were driving home yesterday from Virginia and we've all been sick and I feel like I was in a stupor of like Dayquil and who knows what
Yeah.
else, but I swear I heard on like one of the Sirius XM channels someone mentioned that on Kelly Clarkson's talk show she has the guest that day ask a question for the person that's going to be on the next day. And I don't know if
Yeah.
they know who it is or like what
Right.
sort of the idea is, but I thought it would be fun to start this year and we'll see how it goes. So I don't have one from you from our last episode where Evan was on, but I thought it'd be fun if you have any question, and I'm not going to tell you who's on next. Not that, it's all just randos. So
Right.
who knows if you would know this person, but what question would you like to ask for the next guest?
Okay. Ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with the film. Is that okay? Whatever film you watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Spectacular. So my question for them is, if you had a role in this film,
Mm-hmm.
like you
I'm
could
gonna.
write a role for yourself in the film, what would that be?
Oh, that's a really good one.
So a character that is not in the film, but you think would have bettered the film, and
Mm-hmm.
it's played by you. Spectacular.
That is great. I really like that. That's like well thought out. I was expecting not from you, but like down the line, I'm scared I'm just gonna get like, you know, how often do you go to the bathroom or something like weird like that,
Right.
and then it's all just gonna shut down. Like this
Well,
is
we gotta set the tone, right?
this is
We'll see
the
where it
bar
goes.
is very high because this one I put you on the spot, and two, like this is very well thought out. So I'm impressed.
Well,
I
because
mean, I
I'm
guess
like,
yeah.
I love that sort of thing. I'm like, what would I do in this film? Like, what would be?
Well, I think since we don't have one from you, like, what do you have an answer for the recipe files? Like, where would you be?
So I think what I would be is a food critic, and
Ah,
that
there you go.
I would come to each of the places and I would give a little more information about like why these places are disasters and what's going on behind it. Because I felt like that
Oh,
was missing a little bit. And it's like, right, like
that is valid, right? Because there's a lot of talk about food poisoning and blah blah blah, but there's really no
right.
like, where did it come from? Where did she eat? Like, how did this
Right, and it's like,
happen?
"Oh, well, like, actually, the wine had been going downhill for some time," or
Yeah,
whatever, like, that so just
that's amazing. I'm gonna
yeah.
sort of steal your idea to just capitalize on what's going on already. And I think I could be the podcast host of like
Ooh.
the only murders in the building type, like
Yeah.
trying to solve this crime while it's going on.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we didn't talk
Listen.
about. Claire is also like a news reporter.
Well,
That
that was very unclear. It was like I knew that she was writing stories, I guess, because they kept spinning into the screen, but I was like, what in the world?
Well, there would be scenes where like one of the characters would just be like sitting in like a small office with her, like being
Yes.
grilled. But we never
Uh-huh.
knew why they were there or like
No.
what the reasoning was. Like a lot of
Something on the
confusion.
cutting room floor. Like maybe they'll release shorts later on and we'll learn a
No,
little bit more about
maybe.
some of these issues. But yeah, like I was sort of like, and the cop at one point was like, see, it's all over already. I told you to keep it a secret. And they're like, we can't stop Claire. And everyone's
Yeah.
like, da 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 da. It's
Freaking
like,
Claire, like a kleptomaniac, like gossip, like just a lot.
yeah,
Awful realtor.
she's a horrible person
Claire
too.
is toxic. Claire and Ben. A lot
Poor
of bad
Ben.
energy coming from those. Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel bad. I feel Ben is one of those guys that you're like, oh, like the right kind of woman would want to fix him.
Yeah. He's not
You'd sink,
fixable. It's
no,
not.
you'd sink some time in, and you'd be like, oh gosh, if only I had known.
Yeah. Claire, or sorry, Ben is definitely, or Isabel, if Isabel and Ben get together, there's definitely like a TikTok post or something in 2 or 3 years where Isabel and the kids and everyone wake up on Christmas morning. Everyone's stockings are full except for Isabel's because Ben didn't put anything in there. Like
Exactly true. Exactly
that's
true.
where we're going. All right.
Uh,
Smalltownfailingpodcast at gmail.com. If you want to send an email, smalltownfailingpodcast.com. Back episodes, links to the YouTube where you can watch the videos, because why wouldn't you want to?
they're all
Cameo.
really good. They're
It's
all like
fun.
I have been through your repertoire, and I'm always entertained. You have
I
good
appreciate
guests
that.
and
Here's a
good
good
films.
question. What's your least favorite episode and who was the co-host? Just say
Ooh,
it now.
I would. Oh, well, it has to be the failed Imagineer. That guy is
That
no
guy.
good. No,
Oh my God.
no,
Love.
that is.
What an odd friendship I've like struck up with him. Like it is so amazing every time he's on. Like we find out more similarities.
Uh-huh.
Like at a certain point, it's going to be like, are we related? Like, are you my long lost twin or something? Like
This is a very slowly unfolding Lifetime film,
it
and I
is.
don't
Yeah.
know that you've even recognized it yet.
It makes me sad too because I think he is. Where is he? Is he is he Massachusetts? And I got
He
mixed
it,
up with.
he is, or he was. I think he's. I don't want to say Swampscott. Who
Yeah.
knows? We don't want people going to his house, so.
Wherever, we're very far away from each other, and I feel like at my
Yes.
age it's very hard to make friends, and I feel like him and I could really enjoy each other's
Yes.
company. I hope he's not listening because now it's getting creepy, but
I
you know
know. We both
uh,
are just like we're big fans of his, aren't we?
oh, I miss him so much.
He's kind too, and his
Oh,
family is great. Yeah.
just the
Uh,
friendliest. um I don't know
but
where.
yes, no, all of your guests are great. I love Polly too. She and I are
Oh,
internet friends now.
oh really?
Yes. I don't
That's
know if I
amazing.
got pronouns right or not, but
Yeah, let's
if
just go
if I
with it.
did if I did not, I apologize.
um Where the hell was I? Oh, iTunes, Spotify reviews. Thank you to everyone that's done that. It would be a huge help if you could, if you have not. And Sarah, where can everyone find your wares?
Ooh, you can follow me on Instagram at Indestructible Food, or you can go to indestructiblefood.com to read a ton of food history and buy some things, or you could go to sarahDudek.com and find all sorts of other food things that are maybe not as indestructible.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this. Thank you so much for watching this movie. It seemed like it was enjoyable. So,
It was so much fun. I'm so glad you thought of me as your QVC cohort.
Oh, it was the first name that popped in my head as soon as I saw this trailer. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Sarah, thank you again for coming
Thank
on.
you
I
so
don't
much.
know what we're talking about next time, but we'll figure it out. And we'll have a question for whoever the guest is. So
Yay.
we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.